All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the process of data cleansing when you're using the Power Query editor. So the first thing, we are going to load some data. To load data into the Power Query, we are going to use the new source. So let us click on the new source, and the data that we're going to import is going to be in the form of Excel. So we click Excel. I'll be able to provide the link so that you can be able to get this data set. If you want to follow along. So the data that we're importing is going to be the name field bank list. So I'll click on that data and then import. So this may take some time depending on the speed of your computer. So we got the navigator here. We are going to import only one table from that worksheet or from that workbook. And the table is going by the name data. So this is the preview of that data. It is containing several columns. So click OK. And then eventually we got our data in the Power Query. We want to activate the query settings so that you can be able to see the query settings on our right. So let us go to View, then activate the query settings. You can see the query settings here. The first thing that we want to do with this data is, you can see that our data doesn't have column headers. We just have column 1, column 2, column 3, all the way to column number 5. But if you look keenly at the data, you're going to realize that bank name, city, street, sat, and the query institution, all the details in column 1 are indeed our column headers. So how do we make our row number 1 to be our column headers? We got a feature, just use first row as headers. So if you click on use first row as headers, it is going to convert row 1 to column headers. So row 1 has been converted to column headers. You can see bank name is now a column header, city is now a column header together with street and all the rest. And you can see the that step has been noted on the applied steps on the under query settings. Now, under query settings, there are a lot of things that you can be able to do. One, you can modify the transform that has taken place. Any query that has got this gear, it means that you can click on that gear and then modify that transform. Like promoted areas is now a step, an applied step. If you click on the gear, you can see you can change that to whatever thing that you want, but we don't really want to change that. Another thing that you can do under the query settings is that you can delete a query. To delete a query, there is this cross that is on the left of the query name. You can, not query name, but step, you can delete that. So for example, I want to delete change type 1. I just click on that, and then it has been deleted. If you want to resize this box, you can resize the box, just like dragging this, and then you can see now we got the query name. This is the name of the query. The name of the query has automatically begotten from the name of the table that you're working with. If we want to change the query name, we're going to change the query name right here where we got the name. So I can choose this to be country. Let me just call this query country. In the by call country, On the queries pane, you can see the query name has changed to country, and the number of queries that you are connected to is only one query. We have imported all this data, but we don't want to work with all this data. We want to work with particular columns. Like in this case, I want us only to remain with the bank name, city, street, and closing date. Here is the closing date. I only want to remain with those 4 columns. So if you want to remove some columns, this is what you're supposed to do. There is a feature called choose columns. It is on the ribbon of the Power Query. So click on that feature called choose columns. And then you also click on choose columns. Every column that you've been able to that is available on our data, it is here. And there's a checkbox before every column name. So if I only want to remain with a bank name, city, street, and closing date, those are the columns that I'm going to check. Otherwise, I'm going to uncheck all the other columns. Then okay. And then you can see we have only remained with bank name, city, street, and closing date. That step has also been listed in our list of steps here. And it has got the gear, meaning that if you click on the gear, you can modify that step by choosing other columns. You can still change the order of these steps. For example, if you click on, if you right click on this step, you can see you can move it before, or yeah, you can move it before or after, but you can see move after, it has been freezed because we don't have a step after this. So you can move before. So those are a list of things that you can do with the list of applied steps. You can delete, you can modify, or you can move, or just change. All right. So we got around 3 columns. Let us now talk about the data types. There are several data types on these columns. Every column is belonging to a different data type. If you look at the bank name, there is a feature on the left of every column header. If you click on that feature, you'll be able to see the different data types. Bank name is in form of a text. The data type for bank name is text. That is the reason you can only see ABC. The same applies to bank city. To city, it is a text. Street, it is a text. Closing date, you can see it is a text, but we can change the closing date from a text to a date. So we can click on date, and closing date is now going to be a date instead of a text, because that is the right data type for a closing date. If you look at the list of applied steps, you can see the last step is change data type 1 because of changing the data type for closing date from text to a date. That is about data types. Let us now talk about how do you rename a column. How do you rename a column? If you click on the closing date, then right click, you'll be able to see the list of transformations that you can do. You can extract the year, the quarter, the month, the week, and the day, or you can have the text transformations, that is lowercase, uppercase, and all that. But I want us to duplicate this column. And we duplicate this column, we have a copy, closing date and closing date copy. So right click on the closing date copy, and then go to transform. And then we only want to extract the year. So click on the year. So we only have the year. So I want us to click on the table, that is, click on the column that is closing date, then right click, and then we have an option called rename. We want to call this column year. If you look at this date, it is we have been able to capture the year for all the dates, for the closing dates. That is how you rename a column. You can see we have an applied step called renamed column that is appearing in our list of steps. We want to add another column that is going to be a result of combining the city and the street. So I want us to go to the ribbon and look for this feature called add column. And then I want to add a column from example, and then from all columns. We have column 1, and this is the column that we are trying to add. So double click on that column. And I want us to type the city, which is Chicago, comma, then space, and then we type the street, which is IL. You can click enter, or you can just press OK. And then you're going to see that we are having a new column that is called merged, that is having the city and the street. This is another way of adding column, but this way is very popular, especially when you want to add a column that is as a result of already existing column on the table. There are other ways of adding column, like we'll be talking about conditional column in our next video. But this is another way of adding column, especially when you're adding columns from already existing columns on your table.